Well, everyone, it's another beautiful day. We get to talk about another gaming console, and this time around, we're going to be looking at the Nintendo 2DS XL and seeing how it holds up in 2021. Now, something interesting I'm going to tell you guys has nothing really to do with this video, but I've been watching so many speed runs of so many different games, and I'm surprised by how many speed runs there are of so many DS and 3DS games as well. And I just wanted to put that out there. It has nothing to do with this video, but the 2DS XL is one of those consoles that I really do think it's the perfect Nintendo console besides the Nintendo Switch. And I think in some ways the 2DS XL is more competitive in some areas than something like a Nintendo Switch. Now, the 2DS XL was essentially replacing the whole entire 3DS lineup, even though when it first came out, it was essentially still being sold alongside, as far as I know, with other 3DS consoles. But recently, not too long ago, Nintendo stopped supporting and stopped making the 3DS models in favor of supporting the 2DS models. And I think that makes the most sense. I feel like the 2DS XL, more people ended up liking it. But also on top of that, it's probably cheaper to make. They don't have to throw in, the little toggle on the side and all that crazy stuff. And I personally do think the 2DS XL is the best looking one out of all the DS consoles, in my opinion. I think the DS Lite is like the most beautiful one, but the 2DS XL with its bigger displays, like this is what it should have been in the beginning with. And I'm glad that they ended off the cycle with this type of, design. Now, this thing originally came out in 2017 and it did get discontinued in 2020. So Nintendo does not make any more of these things, but I hope people don't get the idea. Like, this is one of those consoles that is probably not going to go up a crazy amount in value really anytime soon. And the reason for that is because a lot of people love this console. There are so many out there that it's not really a hard thing to get. It's not like the Switch where, Nintendo is just constantly being sold out of them. The 2DS XL, they were always available, and even though they're discontinued, you can buy a lot of them for not that much overpriced. So if you're trying to buy this console to oversell it or sell it in the future, I really don't think this is one of those consoles. I think possibly the original 3DSs, you may be able to do that, but more so like the Nintendo Switches, the PlayStation Vitas, the PS, P Goes, those type of consoles, and the Game Boy Micros, those are really good consoles if you want to resell in the future. Now, looking around this whole entire console, you can see that essentially on the front, we do have, a standard front. It looks really good. Flipping this thing open, on the other hand, is the more juicy stuff. Now, this thing does have that top display, that 4.88-inch LCD panel, and I think this is a really good panel. When you look at it, and even when you look at it over the video, this is like, it's not almost bezel-less, but it really does look so much better than even the 3DS XL. So I like how this display went more to the edge, in my opinion, and I really did like how the bottom display wasn't crazy thinner than the top display. So with previous consoles, I don't know if it's the same proportions or whatever, but I think because these displays are bigger, it kind of gives the impression that it's not like a crazy big difference from the top display and the bottom display. The bottom one though is 4.18 inches, so a little bit smaller. I think 0.7 inches smaller. I really don't think it's that big of a deal though. Like I mentioned, I think with the previous generations it was a bigger difference, but these ones, I think it looks perfectly fine. Now, you do have, the joystick up top left, the D-pad and all that crazy stuff, the standard button, start, select, all that good stuff. And you don't have like that start, home buttons on the bottom of the display like we did with the 3DS XLs and some other versions as well. I was not a fan of that. That did not look good. I'm glad they took that out with the 2DS XL. Now, you still have the game cartridge slot, the micro SD card slot, so not that standard SD card. And really, that's pretty much it. It was a very standard console. There wasn't any crazy good features with it, but that is why I really like this console. It was a very safe console. There were no gimmicks. It really was kind of like a watered down 3DS XL that looked visually better. There were some people who said these displays weren't as good as the 3DS XLs, and I'm kind of 50-50 on that. I think I'm still kind of scarred from the original DS's display, that anything better than that is, A+ for me, in my opinion. And to kind of be honest, the 2DS displays weren't even that great either. So I think it's totally okay. I think the 3DS display was actually really, really good. So the 2DS XL display, I think is totally fine for the most part. But a majority of people don't really care about the pixels and the screens and all this other stuff. They care about the games. They care about the gaming library. And I can definitely tell you, as I've said before, for so many years, the 2DS XL lineup is a very important lineup in the whole entire genre of gaming. It's because you can play 3DS games, DSi games, and DS Lite, DS standard original DS games on this specific console. So you have so many years of just games that you can just play on this thing, and that is one of its biggest, advantages in my opinion. One of the biggest competitors to the 2DS XL for a brief moment of time, I guess, was the PlayStation Vita, but even that wasn't that big of a difference. But the PlayStation Vita really didn't have any backwards compatibility with raw PSP games. You can probably download some on the PlayStation Store and all that stuff, but the actual UMD slots, it didn't have a UMD drive. The 2DS XL still maintained that, and that is a humongous advantage for this console. So you have all those DS games and you have all those 3DS games you can play on this console, and that is one of this console's biggest advantages. You have a humongous array of games that you can just play on this thing. Now, I think some people may actually still be somewhat sad because, maybe they're like, oh, we can't play any Game Boy Advance games. Of course you can't. This thing doesn't have a Game Boy Advance card slot, but you can still download things from the Nintendo eShop. I don't even know if that's still available, to be honest, anymore, but for every other intensive purpose, this thing has a ton of capability just with the gaming selection that you have. All those Marios, Metroids, Mario Karts, Animal Crossings, Super Smash came out for this console, a ton, even the Zeldas, bro. There's so many games that came out for this thing that you're really not going to be bored. If you play all of your games, like your DS games, on an emulator or on like a smaller 3DS or something, I think the 2DS XL is a no-brainer, especially if you have a humongous array of Nintendo games that you've already bought. If you already have your DS games with you, you might as well buy this thing. It's like a no-brainer in my opinion. Now, another pretty big advantage, I think, I don't know if it's for the 2DS XL, but the modding capabilities behind the standard 3DSs are one of the biggest advantages for those consoles. Like I mentioned, I don't think the 2DS or 2DS XL had those type of capabilities, but that may be one advantage that you may have with getting a 3DS XL or 3DS, is that you can modify it and have all those cool little capabilities that come with a modified console. I think those are really cool things, and like I mentioned, I don't know if the 2DS or 2DS XL supported it, but I do think it is one of those things that I'm super happy about that I did with my 3DS and 3DS XL. I did not do with my 2DS XL. I'm unsure if it was supported, but I guess that's either a pro or a side with the 3DS and 3DS XL. But I also want to say that one of the bigger advantages for the 2DS XL was the battery life. I was actually getting really good battery life from my 2DS XL, and some of you may already know this because I've talked about this console before, but I do believe that this console had the best battery life out of all of the consoles besides the DSi XL. I think the DSi XL may have had the best battery life out of any Nintendo console, including the Nintendo Switch. I think the DSi XL killed the Nintendo Switch, but I think the DSi XL is up there. But the 2DS XL is also up there as well, so that is another pretty big advantage for this console. So if you're planning on buying a 2DS XL, you're going to be, rest assured your battery life is going to be awesome on that console. So I will tell you, if you're planning on, getting any type of console in 2021, or if you want to know if the 2DS XL is still worth it in this year, I'm going to say yes. I think this console is still completely worth it in 2021. I think it has a lot of capability. I don't know if Nintendo, as far as I know, there's no more 3DS games being made. I think all the developers are focusing more on the Nintendo Switch and even mobile gaming because that's where everything's going. But I think with the 3DS, the 2DS, and even the DS consoles, these are very important consoles in the whole entire gaming history. So buying these things, it's like you have to do it. Like I had to buy this thing whether I wanted to or not. I had to pay homage to it in a way. But even beyond that, this console has so much capability still. There's still so many games being supported on this thing that it's almost a no-brainer to pick it up. It's definitely not perfect. It's a little bulky. It does feel a little cheap here and there, but it's really not even that bad. And I'm definitely like, if I can get over it, I think a majority of you can get over it too. So I definitely do think this console is still worth it. It's beautiful, and I think it's the best. It's at least the best 3DS, 2DS console, like including the 3DS and 2DS. It's the best, most important one there in my opinion. Even though I think the DSi is probably the most important one, the 2DS is the best one in general, I think. So that really pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.